Okay. Hey guys, what is up? My name is Michaela Campbell, the fashion designer and founder for the fashion design brand, Mack Smith, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today, per usual, I am super excited because it is relating to what I love the most, haute couture and couture. Speaking of couture, if you guys haven't checked out my last video, it was on the haute couture brand Schiaparelli. I went to the exhibit a couple of weekends ago, and that video, I took a bunch of clips from the exhibits. If you guys haven't seen their exhibits or you guys are just interested to see what it looks like, please give it a check out on my last video. Yeah, so getting into the video, I thought it was really important to do this video on the definition or the difference between haute couture versus couture, because I've seen a lot of people get those two mixed up. You know, just people, and I, for me, used to get them mixed up. I'm like, what's the difference between haute couture and couture? I've always thought about that. And, you know, and honestly, like, you know, going to school now for me and my master's, like, I'm learning so much about, like, the simplest definitions. And even when you're describing something, like, really know what you're talking about in depth. For me and my program, I'm learning more in depth of everything in the fashion world. And, you know, couture versus haute couture versus custom made, ready to wear, and so forth. So I thought it would be really fun to do this video on the difference between haute couture and couture. If you guys haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel where you can see a lot more fashion content going forward. So for any fashion piece that is considered to be a couture piece, means that it's 99% handmade or handcrafted, and it does not need to be accredited by a French fashion couture house. I feel like a lot of people think because you're making couture, even like fashion students, and for me, I was one of them who used to say, you know, used to make a garment and think, hey, it's couture because I'm making it from scratch, like the pattern, sourcing the fabric, you know, cutting and doing all the sewing, and then it's like couture, but it's really not. And couture is like meaning that you have to literally stitch it, like hand stitch it correctly, and also do fittings on the person that you're creating the couture piece for. If you're like a fashion student out there, or if you're somebody and just in general who loves to sew and uses a sewing machine, it's not couture. More likely than not, it is custom made for, you know, a specific person, whether it's yourself or someone else that you're creating the garment for. And for all couture pieces, they're always one-of-a-kind pieces, meaning that there are no two copies of the same item that you're creating. So you have to make two different kinds. So if I were, for example, to do this wool blazer, I would have to hand stitch it myself without using a machine. I'd be able to make two of these for it to be couture. It would have to be one of a kind piece. And if you wanted something similar, then I'd have to change up either, you know, maybe the material of the fabric, the silhouette of the fabric, or the garment of how it's, you know, structured, or maybe add certain embellishments maybe, or, you know, tailor it more because it's really loose fitting, so I probably tailor just something's different. Even the color, it has to be different. It can't be two of the same kind of pieces because couture is like one of a kind. That's what makes it so special. A garment could just be created by an expertise that is a craftsman in dealing with couture and knows how to sew high quality fabrics like fine silks, linens, cottons, wools, and the list goes on, and just knows how to eloquently create certain details in the pieces that they're making, whether it's beading or special stitching or even embellishment. For haute couture, it is a higher ballgame. You can't get any higher than haute couture in the fashion world. There's nothing more finer and more eloquent than haute couture, period. And haute couture fashion is high fashion luxury clothing made by a fashion house that's regulated by the French fashion government. La Chambre Syndicale de Haute Couture. Okay, I might be saying this wrong. You guys can correct me in the comments below, because I know I'm completely slaying this whole organization's pronunciation completely. It's a French fashion house regulated, La Chambre Syndicale de la Haute Couture, and this fashion house has very strict standards in allowing these luxury fashion design brands to be considered haute couture. And for those of you who may not know what okay. So for those of you who may not know, La Chambre Syndicale de la Haute Couture it was an organization created in 1868, started creating like the standards for luxury fashion, and it wasn't until 1945 that they started having qualification for these high luxury fashion design brands. So in those qualifications for these luxury fashion design brands to be considered haute couture, their designs must be made to order for private clients, and in these designs they have to have at least one or more fittings for these private clients, and each atelier must have at least 20 technical full-time staff members on their workshop or atelier, and they have to present a collection of at least 50 looks for both daytime and evening wear twice a year for their Haute Couture Fashion Week, which is both in January as well as July. So there are very strict standards for the Haute Couture brands to even stay in the Haute Couture. Every year they have to attain these standards to be considered a Haute Couture brand. There's not as many as there were back in the day, like in the 1940s, like especially 1945 when they started creating, because there were just so many brands calling themselves Haute Couture brands. And I believe there was like around 106, like more so back in the day, more than 100 Haute Couture design brands. Now there is around 20 or less than 20. Some brands you guys might know is Valentino, Versace, Givenchy, Dior, Giorgio Armani, Schiaparelli, Chanel, Elisa, just to name a few that you guys might recognize. There was back in the day over 100. Now there is a lot less than 50 brands that would consider themselves to still attain to the Haute Couture standards to be considered a Haute Couture house. In order to a garment to be considered Haute Couture, it has to have the finest, most luxury, finest fabrics and materials and hardware. So like we're talking about silks, we're talking about the finest furs, the finest leathers, cottons, linens, everything, the purest of these materials. And of course, couture in the world, especially haute couture, everything point blank has to be handcrafted and hand stitched, hand sewn, everything done by hand, no machines, everything hand stitched. Even if there's a full bridal gown that's covered in beads or crystals or diamonds, it all has to be hand sewn, like 100% hand sewn, because haute couture in French really means high sewing. So you're looking at the highest of quality, the highest craftsmanship, and people with experience. And we're talking about the best and finest craftsmanships from people who are, experts in the field, like the best in the world in these haute couture fashion fields and ateliers and workshops that specifically are specialized just for haute couture and sewing. So obviously not many people can buy haute couture. A lot of the haute couture just for a blouse can start around $10,000 and move upward just for one single blouse. Even if you are thinking about getting a haute couture bridal gown, it starts around $100,000 and makes its way up, just for an estimate to ballpark. I mean, obviously this depends on, the details, the craftsmanship, the embellishments, and so forth. But not everybody can buy and afford haute couture pieces. There's around 500 people in the world who actually are committed haute couture shoppers who can afford haute couture and actually appreciate haute couture. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, like there were so many more back in the day, like in the 1940s and 50s, haute couture houses that focus more on, like the quality, the craftsmanship. And I think it just because back then it was a different time. I feel like our fashion has evolved into being more comfortable. And for me, in my opinion, many of the haute couture customers are more mature and older customers, because I feel like, it kind of goes with the time. Like back in the day, just the way people dress, like people were willing to dress up more and go out dressed up often, whereas now like the younger rich person is gonna wear jeans and a t-shirt from a sustainable small brand company, like woman-owned company, black-owned company, and so forth, those kind of companies, and that are more conscious. I feel like that's where we're going now. I feel like just being in a different time frame, I feel like everybody in our society is just more casual and laid back. We're not wearing as many dresses when we go out. Women, we wear pants, we wear an oversized blazer, we wear sweatpants. Even there are like jogger sweatpants, fleece suits, like, you know, a sweater and like a matching jogger fleece set that people, even like rich people, will go out and be okay with and comfortable with. They'll be willing to spend like $100 on a fleece, or like $200 on a, or more on a fleece suit matching set, rather than, you know, paying more for, you know, to be more dressed up and more put together. So I feel like it's just the difference of fashion trends and fashion style. And I feel like that's why some of these high luxury brands feel like they don't need couture, haute couture as much anymore. And just being couture, because a lot of these fashion design luxury brands that we all know today, that they still can do couture but not haute couture, and just be underneath those same standards and restrictions by the French fashion government for the haute couture regulation, qualify them as a haute couture house. Yeah, that's just me in my opinion. What do you guys think in the comments below? Why there are so much significantly less luxury brands doing haute couture, considering themselves to be haute couture houses. Those are the main differences between couture and haute couture. I hope you guys who have been watching throughout this whole video have found this information to be very helpful. If you guys, again, are watching by now, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.